right, Robert, good morning.
Morning.
So, just a few words I will say before we start that, my style is make no preparation whatsoever. I never prepare for anything. I like spontaneous, I like to be spontaneous, and just have a real conversation with people. So we never met either. So we just had a
Yep.
few friends in common,
Yep.
and I just felt like, okay, then maybe it's time for us to talk and introduce you to my followers. I respect people's time,
Hmm.
and I want to bring the best content for them. So I thought, as an author, you can share your story, which is very much aligned with
Hmm.
what I do. So we will talk about your books and your medicine path, which I would assume that the medicine path started before, and then the book came as a result, like in my case.
Hmm.
So whatever you feel like, sharing like your path, like your just about yourself first, and then kind of how you got to the medicine,
Yeah.
jungle, and then we just take
Okay.
from there. Okay?
All right. Yeah. How did some street kid who grew up in California in the ragged suburbs end up in the Amazon rainforest? Yes.
Okay. It's a
Um,
good start.
well, I first though, I want to just thank you for reaching out. I'm always touched to make connections with people. And I know that my friend Todd, who went down to work with you, really appreciated the way you held the work with the Huachuma there.
Yeah.
So grateful,
Todd is a
grateful for
great
that.
guy. Great guy.
He is, I know.
He's a great guy, good
Yeah,
heart, with a good medicine work here.
yeah, good man. Um, my story, um, I mean, it's all these strands coming together, yeah. But it all does kind of start, for me with kind of being left in a children's shelter when I was very young,
Mm.
which is kind of our modern version of abandoning the infant on the mountainside to die, to be eaten by beasts, or die of exposure. And that really set off a deep quest for healing for me. Um and of course I wasn't conscious of that when I was young. I raged as a teenager. I was a punk rocker, I was a street kid, but there kept being these interventions in my life which were saving me. Uh uh I don't work well with LSD now, but when I was a kid, it was like meeting an angel. And having the terrible fate that I'd fallen into lifted from me. Um, and in fact, I found my Buddhist practice when the police arrested me and threw me in jail when I was on LSD, and I had to sit actually in a prison cell, and I'm 16,
Bad
uh,
trip.
and
Very bad trip.
navigate. It wasn't. That's the funny thing. It was more of a death experience.
Mm.
And when I emerged from the jail cell, I in as part of my bringing my mind back online, because basically I was a burnout and I was actually thought that I had permanent brain damage. It was so severe. Um, I found my Buddhist path. Um, and I don't know if I would have ended up moving into a Zen temple in Hawaii at age 19 if I hadn't had that jail cell journey.
Mm.
Um, but this is growing up through the rough stuff and having incredibly extraordinary interventions coming through for you. And um, I also had the experience of eating mushrooms when I was a boy on the streets. And it dawned on me at a certain point that I was actually communing with an intelligence of its own. Like, it's not like this was a molecule, but this was a being that was teaching me, and that I I was learning from, and that really deeply impressed me as a youth. And I never forgot it. And I made connections with Tolkien even at that time. This is an animistic world that I was in. And so that probably led to my second book, which had to do with Homer, Tolkien, and the Shamanic Odyssey, as we see it in these ancient or ancient inspired texts. Moved into a Zen temple at 19, looked at a wall for years. And then one day I was down in the desert in San Luis Potosí in a
Nice, very good.
region where sacred to the Huichol. And outside of Real de Catorce, which is one of the most magical, beautiful towns I've ever encountered. The church to St. Francis there is a marvel. I still get chills when I think about it. We went out into the desert and we harvested peyote in a respectful way.
With whom?
And
With the Indians? With the Huichols?
no,
Oh, you
it
wish.
was French, Mexican, and American expedition, and I was hiding I was American because it was pretty rough out there. And when I drank the peyote, which of course is, akin to Huachuma,
Yeah, brothers.
yeah, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not done with this plant medicine work after all.
Just starting.
Because in one night, I felt like I'd sat an entire Zen session. I walked out with my eyes clear in a way that I had not been expecting. And so that was deeply moving. And, my trajectory, I'm talking too much, just interrupt me. My trajectory has always been shaped by having PTSD. I now have a word for it. But at the time, all you know is there's a break inside you. Very severe architectural damage in your soul that you need to heal. And so many years spent in meditation in the Zen Buddhist tradition. Lots of other work. And at a certain moment, I had finished my master's degree in literature, and I'd written about a poem from the Middle Ages that I just simply love. It's called Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And it's about this quest into the forest to encounter the other world and back again. And when I finished my master's thesis, right around that time, I had an opportunity to drink ayahuasca. And that was such an extraordinary awakening for me, and also one that was fraught with danger because the ceremony was not well run. I had a lot of luck that evening. With that encounter with something that seemed to come out of the other world, I became enraptured. Like, what is this plant that can awaken you, shake you out of your illusions, reach inside of you and heal you? It's just,
And
what
change you.
is this being? It shook my world to the foundations. And on the other hand, I didn't have much to do. I'd completed my master's thesis, so and I'm a writer. And so I began doing research and getting more and more drawn into that world. And eventually, I started traveling down south. So first I ended up in Brazil, working in the Barquinha Santo Daime kind of tradition. And when I returned, I showed my work to Gary Snyder, who is one of the founders of the Zendo that I practice at. And For those of you who don't know, Snyder's a very important poet, Pulitzer Prize winning kind of icon of the beat poetic generation and stuff. And he was kind enough to look at it, and he made a comment. He said, "Robert, you got a book here." And so my little brain went ding, and before long, I'd been carried off down into the Amazon again, and this time into the Vegetalista tradition
In Iquitos.
down there. First through Takawasi, which is a center that works with the plant medicines to heal addiction. And they've got the full array. You know, in the West, we mainly know ayahuasca. What we don't know is there are really kind of three aspects to this tradition. There's the plant dieting, where you work with other plants that have a sentient intelligence that has been identified by native people to be of particular efficacy in opening your eyes to this or treating this or healing this. Purging, where you're actually drinking plants like tobacco or lonkawi to clean out your system. And then there's the ayahuasca psychoactive part of it. Ayahuasca and tobacco, of course, because tobacco is also considered a psychoactive plant teacher.
Well, it's purgative medicine more. You know.
Could you say that again?
It's a purgative medicine more.
It's purgative, but in the Vegetalista tradition, it's also a director of plants. And so, and of course, in the Native American church up here in the north, you communicate with Creator through that sacred tobacco. Tobacco, there's a lot to learn.
Oh, for sure, it's powerful medicine.
From us still, you know, but it's really instrumental in healing.
Yeah, we use it all the time in ceremonies.
In a way, you could look at it as the surgical knife. You know, like when you're in your ceremony and there's something that needs to be done with real precision and love, right, and depth, tobacco can really go right through. So I think it's an amazing plant. And I first encountered the full array of this kind of, you know, amazing tradition, because Takawasi has, or at least at the time, they had all kinds of different healers from different tribes coming through. And that was how my girlfriend at the time and I encountered Juan Flores at my Antuyaku, outside of Pucallpa. And that's where most of the action of my first book, The Jaguar That Roams the Mind, takes place.
So you just started there.
Yeah, Susanna.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about your book, like the first book, how it came. Did you have a vision in the ceremony, or you just felt like later on that, okay, I need to share with people? Like how that unfolded for you?
Well, you know, I mentioned that Gary looked at my early writing and said, "You've got a book here." But at the time, and I still think this is a kind of an issue, there weren't, you know, like you could look at Ralph Metzner's great book, but you just got snippets, experience here, experience there. You know, it's all categorized in a particular phenomenological way.
It's academic. It's more like academic
in
a sense.
Yeah, and that's got their virtues. And there is Wade Davis's magnificent One River, right? And there's Mark Plotkin's writings too. But these are ethnobotanists and anthropologists. And what I was after was healing, because at that point, I was realizing that ayahuasca could have miraculous effects on trauma. And that's what interested me. My Zen training had given me all kinds of gifts, but it didn't allow me to open Pandora's box and let out it all, you know. In a way, you can use spiritual practice to put a stronger lid on things, even. And so I needed a way in. I needed that. And the connection with the plant, the sense of intimacy and intelligent compassion, and also, the danger. Unlike, I think, Huachuma and peyote, which for me are sort of strict grandparents, they just come in there and they set you straight.
Mhm.
Ayahuasca
With
is,
love, with love. They're loving.
yeah, oh God,
They're
yes,
setting yourself straight with love.
absolutely. Um, with ayahuasca can be more serpentine and
Rough.
very loving, but there's some trickster in it. And of course, it reveals the shadow in ways that you may not be prepared for. It can also be used for brujeria, for doing damage to other people.
Yeah, happens all the
Um,
time.
yes, it does.
You know?
Yep. And so, um, when uh, my my partner, Susana Bustos, was actually doing her PhD dissertation on the healing impact of Icaros in ayahuasca ceremonies. She wanted to look at those moments where someone's
Mm.
life just got turned completely upside down by an Icaro, one of the sacred songs of the rainforest, and study it phenomenologically. And so we ended up at Mayantiyaku, which was Juan Flores Center in Pucallpa, ostensibly to study phenomena. Right? I mean, I'm writing a book,
Mm.
and more
Mm.
importantly, Susanna's doing her dissertation, but we got drawn into the apprenticeship. You can't understand this stuff except from the inside, and we showed up.
That's the
Yeah,
point in all my
yeah,
books. That's
yeah.
why I'm trying to transmit through 5 books,
Mm,
you know?
mm.
Exactly that point. You can
Yeah,
study this from the outside.
yeah. And this is an old tradition. There's a wonderful book that just came out by Mike J called Psychonauts, which really reclaims that
Mm.
older lineage of you want to know something from the inside, you got to
You
go
have
inside.
to do it.
Yeah, so it's not like we're wild-eyed hippies or something here. Of course we are, but we're in a lineage here. This is people
Hmm.
understand these things from within, of course.
Of course, that's the whole point. You know, it's like that's where my criticism for science begins. It's like, guys, you want to understand something, you don't understand it in a lab. You need to throw yourself in the environment when this is culturally done and be part of it. And the problem is like when this in anthropology, it's like they have the strict rules that you cannot participate, you can only observe and then describe the observation. And that's what anthropology really is, in general speaking. I think the only guy who broke this tradition was Labar when he wrote the peyote code. He actually had the medicine with them. And that's why I like Labar, because he actually took the medicine. Other guys just like telling you, sitting like, hey, this is boring.
Well, there is Richard Evans Schultes, of course.
Later, probably. That's later. Labar.
No, actually contemporary with Labar.
Oh, okay. Well, you
But
have to.
he was a Harvard ethnobotanist. He wasn't an anthropologist, but they overlap,
Okay.
of course.
Okay. But still,
Yeah,
it's not like a academic tradition to be a part of the experience, and that's the luck. That's a
yeah.
huge luck. That's why they're like the research is as good as it could be. To me personally, it's boring. I can't read the stuff. Like I read real books. Like that's what I write, and that's what I read. Like people who actually have thrown them into this tornado and into this hurricane, into this a real shamanic experience, and came out of it with their experience. That is reliable. That is what I like to hear, and that's what I want to bring to everybody who follows me. Because people who follows me, that's what they like. They like real transformative stories from people. It's okay if you're an academic. I'm not against that. But academic with real experience, I respect. You know? Like research, but a field research. You see, that's the point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of gap I saw in the literature, is there wasn't a good there and back again story.
Hmm.
And I wanted, in a way, to sing a song to ayahuasca in thanks for what I'd received, by creating a narrative. And that tracked the whole healing journey as best it could. And of course, it was only a stage, uh, just a beginning of the apprenticeship process. But it was a really deep plunge. And the Jaguar that roams the mind was really well received, and it touched a lot of people. And I still hear or contact, like run into people who really appreciated the book. Um, and my connection with Maestro Juan Flores and his apprentices, most especially Brunswick Guerra and his partner Romy, continue very strongly down there. It's like you become part of a family, and they truly are family. It's so many people break off with their spiritual teachers for good reasons or not. And so when a connection with a lineage and a because this is a lineage. This is like the Zen Buddhist tradition. This goes back. And when you do ceremony, you're calling in the doctors from this lineage to work with you and the other people gathered in prayer looking for healing. And to be able to continue in that is something I'm grateful for every day. And it continues to unfold.
Well, it's important to respect your teachers,
It's really a
you
privilege to
know?
respect your teachers.
Yeah, I agree. Like real
So easy,
teachers,
as a teacher, it's so easy to blow it. We're all human.
yeah, well, that's why you make the heart-to-heart connection. And if it's
Yeah.
there, it's there forever. It's there for life and until you screw it up, you know? You can
And
maintain
then,
that
yeah,
for a
when
long
it
time.
inevitably comes along, you're like, okay, well,
You know, I
whatever it
respect
is.
all my teachers. So who I started to do medicine with 20 years ago. I
Mhm.
love them. Some of them are no longer here, like Don Howard. He was my first teacher. And they my friends in the rituals also. Some of them are
Okay.
already gone. And
Okay.
I respect all of them. This is what built me. This is the
Hmm.
foundation that I built myself
Hmm. Hmm.
on. So it's very
Right.
important, if the teachers are good, of course, moral and good people, it's like if it's not, then it's okay to break it down. It's like, hey, that doesn't align with my morals, but if it's a good guy or a person or a woman, whoever is, it's like it's important to maintain that even if you kind of feel that you kind of like you walk your own path, like I walk my own path, but it was built on their experience or
Yeah.
on their dedication, on their
Yeah.
knowledge. So it's true you walk your own path, but your respect remain forever because these are the
Yeah.
people who open the world for you. These are the people who open the spiritual world for you. They opened it for me too. So how can I be ungrateful and talk bad about those people who just destroy my sleep for good, destroy my trance, destroy my illusion, who have shown me the path, shown me the way, and just let me go? This is amazing if you find people like this in life. And if you find them, you better take care of them and like love them, respect them. So it's very important. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for distraction. It's just
No,
we have
I
ayahuasca tonight,
complete
so
accord.
this,
I'm glad we agree.
this,
Um, One
my
thing it made me want to add is another kind of integral part of my own learning was being with the Native American church up here in the north too, working in the peyote way. And um, they helped me understand how to pray a bit better.
Mm.
Up here in the north, we have a very kind of therapeutic modality, that's held for plant medicine work. And uh and um what the church allowed me to understand better was when you create a ceremonial container that's really well honed. It's not just kind of grooving along with the plants and listening to some music and seeing this and that. It's like, you're calling in spirits in particular orders, you're bringing in the doctors, this is surgery.
Mm-hmm.
When you do this kind of work in the traditional way, um, it it moves into uh I want to say additional depth. Um, it moves out of the head, it moves into the ancestors more deeply, it moves into, at least for me, um, it opens up a deeper apprehension of things that just a kind of therapeutic container does not, in my experience. I feel like a sense of prayer, and also a sense, and this is again just for myself and my own training and background, a sense of connection to a creator, which is like what keeps your backbone straight in the worst of circumstances, in the hardest, spiritual alignment to the highest. Um, I worry about it, not holding our prayer strongly enough, and I work with it myself. I need it. I need the backbone. I need that alignment. And my own teacher, Juan Flores, unapologetically uses the name Jesus Christ in his Ikaros, and
Mm.
some that I also received at Takawasi are very Christic centered.
Well,
Um,
they're all syncretic, you know.
they are and they're not. Another way to look at it is they're Catholic in the old sense of holding everything, right? You can also hold Krishna or Buddha. Um, but I've come to understand the Ikaros to Christ as being kind of aligned with the Chanupa in the Lakota tradition, in that it's spiritual clarity, right? Healing from creator. And that was something I really got from the Native American church. I'm really grateful to them for that.
Yeah, they
I
have a strong connection with that.
they
Well,
do.
but we all praying to the same Great Spirit. Is the same connection just being expressed in different ways. It's like this is like in my experience, like before even long ago I began Ayurvedic medicine. That was the case, It's like people like it expressed differently, different words like Great Spirit there. Here is Pachamama. There is like whatever. It's like, but it's the same kind of universal entity that has its own expressions and manifestation. That's basically what God is. It's like we're all praying to that thing, but it's just some people have a different kind of, okay, if you're more religious, you will be calling it God. If you like on another side, you will be calling Great Spirit or whatever, the universal consciousness. It's all the same force anyway. It's just like a different wrap in which people, put their things. So it's not that different from other traditions. Like when we drink ayahuasca, The same thing. I will probably hear this tonight. My maestro Shipibo who is coming is also Jesus Christ. Although it's not my thing. I'm completely non-religious. But for me, it's a great spirit, most like in a Native American sense. But I understand who he's praying. I understand the source. So it's like, okay, call it Jesus Christ, whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
change anything. It's a healing
No, in this
source.
case, it's a mantra that opens up an aspect of the divine. It's not,
That's it. It's a divine
some
channel.
literal fundamentalist. Yes.
Exactly. It's a divine
Mhm.
channel. Call it Jesus,
Mhm.
call it what you want.
Mhm.
It's connection. It's invoking the healing energy towards everybody, and that's it. But tell me now
I,
about
yeah,
so
go ahead.
the
Sorry.
the first book was the roaming Jaguar, the first book.
Jaguar that roams the mind.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then what followed that?
Yes. Okay. My second book is entitled The ShamanicOdyssey, Homer, Tolkien, and the Visionary Experience. And the way that started was when we were doing our dieta in the rainforest. It was a month long. We were drinking tobacco and shiwawako and chichawasi and
These are strong
all of
trees.
these other plants that are used in the apprenticeship of shamans in the
Well,
rainforest. And we're deep isolation. I mean,
mhm.
we could have been in Eden, you know. At a certain point, Maestro Flores came back and talked with us. And uh, my partner at the time, Susanna, shared how she kept hearing songs coming from the burbling of the river. And
Mhm.
Juan began talking about all of the serenas and the yacarunas and oh my God, the incredibly rich tradition of healing spirits from the water, and
Yeah,
also
river spirits.
very significant
Mhm.
in this tradition, but also the very dangerous spirits that live in the water. And he shared the story of how his sister was abducted by a Yakuruna and taken down into the waters. And I listened to his account and I said, Maestro, have you ever heard of Homer? And he
Mhm.
went, no. And I said, well, let me tell you the story of Odysseus lashed to the mast, listening to the sound of the sirens. And so
Mhm.
I told the story,
Yeah.
and Juan nodded his head and said, yep, that's them, all right.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, ancient
The-
Greek text, contemporary Amazon rainforest with a living shaman, same creature. What's going on here?
Well, it's different spirits, but it's like, hey, what do you think ancient Greek were doing in the mystery schools? That's what they were
Well, I don't
doing.
even think you needed a mystery school among the archaic Greeks. I think they were already immersed in it.
Okay, but still, it's like it's a similarity. You can see similarity
Oh, no,
between.
absolutely.
It's like when I
Yeah.
read like Greek mythology, it's like, hey,
Mhm.
to me, it's not a mythology. I can see people taking plants, and it's a visionary
Yeah.
experience, and
Yeah.
maintaining this tradition, kind of
Mhm.
secret, to protect it. It's like it's not
Well, let's
different.
let's just tease that out slightly, okay? You're talking about the Eleusinian mysteries in
Exactly.
the terms of the mysteries. And that was actually going on during the time of Homer,
Yeah, for
even all the way
sure.
back to Homer. And it continued all the way into the Roman Empire until it was suppressed around 450 by a Christian emperor. Yes.
Mhm.
And no doubt that is a continuation of a tradition that went all the way back to the Paleolithic. We see
Mhm.
it all over the place in it.
It's the same here
In
in
the
Peru.
Odyssey in particular as well, but also in the Iliad, we're seeing all of the characteristics of an animistic indigenous worldview.
Hmm. Yeah.
And in Odysseus, we are seeing the characteristics of not only someone embedded in an animistic worldview, but someone who's a shaman, who navigates with spirits, knows how to take plants,
Yep,
knows how to make offerings, can travel in the land of the dead, right?
exactly. It's
And so
all
as
allegories for real thing, for real phenomenon.
they're myths, they're just wonderful myths. And I think the encounter between Odysseus and the Cyclops takes us all the way back to the Paleolithic cave. I mean, we're way back at this point. And so I began to see the Odyssey as this marvelous repository of bardic materials from all around the Mediterranean, because all those cultures were connected, coming from deep time. And we got this snapshot in this amazing document. Like, who would have imagined this would have been written down with this new
Mm.
technology that came their way from the Hebrews, right? But they wrote it down. They wrote it down, and we got it, right? And so I became fascinated with understanding what are these archaeological layers within the text, because you really can see them layer upon layer. And so that was primarily what the second book was about, was trying to reclaim this indigenous, animistic, shamanic worldview as being at the heart of Western civilization as well.
Yeah, that started there. Kind of
Always
began
been there.
from, you know,
Always been there.
began from a Greece kind of.
Yeah, but it's
Mm.
among the Celts too. It's
Yeah,
among the
yeah,
Norse. I mean, my
yeah.
God, you want to learn about shapeshifting? Go read the old sagas, like you read people writing about the Old Norse now, like People of Ash and Elm, which is a marvelous book on the Vikings that just came out a while ago. And the author treats shapeshifting as a given among them. It's like it was so common that to kind of deny shapeshifting would be like to deny that there are bus drivers,
Yeah, obvious.
in Western culture. So it's a really rich, wild world that we've grown out of. And in modernity, we've ended up in these Cartesian boxes which are suffocating
Oh,
and cut
starting
us off
from
from our
religion.
ancestors too, I feel.
It was suppressed for 2000 years, in
Oh.
Europe. The
Well,
religious
but I mean, especially with the
suppression.
Enlightenment, the Enlightenment. Oh
Well, it
boy.
came to resurrect. That's where, I mean, it went back to like medieval ages, with alchemy. That was the resurrection of ancient knowledge, really.
Yeah, it's always continued within the Western tradition. But we first really got brainwashed, I think, with the Enlightenment.
So, what did you write a third book?
I have.
Okay,
Um,
so what's that?
the third book is called Sacred Soil, and it was inspired by my encounter with Terra Preta, the soil that was created by Amazonian peoples. Second time I was living down in Peru long term. And I first read about it in Charles Mann's 1491. And then I actually encountered a center called Mama, which run by the anthropologist Frederick Apfel Margolin, where she was reintroducing this ancient soil technology as best she could throughout the native communities to help them create a sustainable agriculture so they wouldn't end up dependent on the petrochemical companies and the whole capitalistic, you know, framework, which is just fraying their societies and trying to
Yeah,
reduce them to debt peonage.
that's a
Um,
problem.
oh, Peru just, oof, that's a whole topic for an entire other conversation, right? Um, the battle for the memory and soul of Peru is
That's,
huge right now.
that's Avatar movie. That's the real reality, that's a reflection,
Yes, yes.
you know.
And So terra preta, the black soil created by the Indians, native people in the rainforest, is a kind of living microcosm. It's almost like a reef system, which at a certain point, the soil just kind of comes to life. And it stores nutrients. Um, it grows. It's filled with the kind of microchondrial, is that the word? No, sorry, microbial. I'm not a scientist. Um, Life that sustains soils and makes them healthy. It draws down rain. It stores water in it. It's basically soil as a living organism, and the Amazonian people learned how to create that. And in the heart of the rainforest, they had done what American anthropologists denied could have been possible at all, because you can't have major civilizations living in the heart of a rainforest, which soil is essentially wet desert. You can't do it. It's impossible. So the report of Gaspar Carvajal, the Dominican friar that went through on the Orellana expedition, which was the first journey of Spanish down that the entire length of the Amazon River, impossible. All those civilizations, advanced civilizations, couldn't have been. But then archaeologically, finally, it got put together that, in fact, about a third of the Amazon rainforest is, I believe the word is anthropogenic. It's been shaped by human hands. They were making a Garden of Eden when Westerners showed up and destroyed everything with our diseases and conquest. It's such a revelation to humbly realize that this was one of the few highly advanced cultures on the planet that left their ecosystem more fertile than when they arrived, more able to sustain life.
Well, that's has to do with connection to the earth.
Yes.
When you love your environment, you take care of your environment. Just that's
And
it.
I think not only connection, but symbiosis.
Mm.
That's what we see, again and again with indigenous peoples. And, in the rainforest, it's just, the classic quandary. How do you take the ayahuasca vine and say, hey, let's just combine this amount with this chacruna plant over here and kind of mix it up and, like, look at the outcome. That does not happen at random.
Of course. It's a
You don't pull
knowledge.
this kind of stuff off. I mean, it's just, um, and of course, indigenous people say, well, the spirits come and tell us how to do this, or we get information in dreams. Um, and so, this is, I mean, we're in the terrain of Shakespeare's Tempest at this point. All the world is a dream, and how
How to
indigenous
wake up?
people,
That's the question.
how we wake up
Plants.
to the dream.
Well, how you wake up from the dream into the reality,
Go
And
back into the
how,
dream again.
well, in a better dream. If it's all a dream, then I rather to dream awake.
Well, whose dream is it then, Sergey?
Well, I think that this is a deep question. I will give this answer. You make your own dream and you dream it the way you want. That's really what it is. That's what I see the journey is. Make your own dream, dream it awake, and help other people to find their dream and dream that awake. Whatever is their dream, there may be a different dream, but to help them to find their dream, not to leave someone else's dream. That's kind of my philosophy.
Yeah,
It's
not to fall into hypnosis of someone
like
else's
exactly,
plan.
it's like
Yes, yes.
just
Hmm.
discover your passion, discover your dream, and live it.
Hmm.
And that is the journey.
Hmm.
Live it consciously, fully, That's how you realize yourself. And that's my latest book. That's the title, Unplugged.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Just unplug from the matrix and get into the real world of nature, medicine, spirit, and discover who you are. Discover your relationship with creation, with the whole universe.
Yeah.
It's a self-discovery based on real experience, direct experience, not ideologies, not dogmas.
Mm-hmm.
Your experience, your relationship with the world. This is why I'm a big fan of Terence McKenna.
Mm-hmm.
I mention him in my books. I'm a big fan because he understood that. He
Yeah.
understood the importance of direct spiritual experience, and you kind of finding your own answers. You building your way through this, dream world. So that's pretty much how I would answer this. Like in short.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the wonderful thing about Huachuma and ayahuasca and peyote is they teach us to dream while being awake.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That's the power.
And
That
the other, the thing that was really fascinating me while I was working on this book was, and it's always fascinated me, because I watched Juan Flores heal people. Well, one person in particular of a brain tumor. She showed up at my Antiyaku. They were going to have to drill into her head and attempt to remove this thing that was growing on, I don't know which gland it was, but it was, you know, scientifically isolated, and she was having all the symptoms, and she showed up at my Antiyaku desperate, clearly. I mean,
yeah,
and um, all that the maestro did was give her agua icarida or icarado. Anyway, he sang
Icarada,
over
yeah,
water.
sunk water, sunk.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't even think she could handle ayahuasca. And so she sat in ceremonies. And one particular night, I heard his icaros become very different. And it was clear he was singing in operation. And I followed with, really great interest. It was very distinct. Um, then Carolina went back to Chile and went through, got this whole battery of tests from the doctors, and they said, your tumor's gone. What
Mhm.
happened? What did you do?
Magic
And
happened.
yeah. And
That's
so
it.
in the dream, right, when we get out of our fossilized perspectives and we go permeable, and we're no longer just ourself, but we can be multiple, beings at the same time. A doctor can come through us. And what got really fascinating for me for a while, I kind of just sort of take it more for granted now, was how in a visionary state it's possible to see in a way that completely changes objective reality.
Yes.
Was
Without having
afterward,
explanation.
yeah,
The
and this
science
isn't
can explain
common,
that.
this doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while in ceremonial work, um, something happens that completely shifts objective
Yeah.
reality in a truly profound way. Uh, I have a friend that had one shaman put an entity in him, and in a ceremony he was in with me, the Bobinsana like kind of sent in a huge anaconda that we got it out, complete recovery. He'd been in jail. He had been like, he has scars on his face. He had almost lost his family.
Mm.
The battle with the entity that had been put in him by this Western gringo shaman had almost killed him. And we're in the dream with the plant, and this huge anaconda spirit comes in. It came out, complete recovery.
You
It's a
know,
year later, and he is still complete. completely recovered and working on healing his relationship with his family in the sincerest possible way.
Yeah, it's like people who never had plant medicine real in a shamanic setting, they will probably think we're crazy talking about this stuff.
Right.
But I assure you
Yeah, right.
guys,
Yeah.
this is
Oh,
real.
it's hypnotic self-suggestion.
No,
Right.
none of that, guys. Real
Yeah.
stuff, real healing,
Hmm.
real transformation, I don't like to brag about my work, unless I'm asked, but I just feel like sharing that just to support what you just said,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
came
Please.
through my medicine. But
Yeah.
very similar thing. I had a guy here, he was in his 60s, something like 60s. I'm not sure where exactly. Early 60s. And it wasn't brain tumor, it was brain leisure, something like leisure, it was a
Leisure.
lesion, yeah. There was
Okay.
a
Yeah.
leakage of
Yeah.
blood
Uh-huh.
that was kind of calcifying in the brain and creating extreme migraines, and he was at the danger of getting blind because of the pain. So
Okay.
he went to the doctors, the surgeons, and they say, yeah, we need to cut your head off. I mean, a part of it, we need to take it out, operation.
Hmm.
Take your skull apart. So
Yeah.
he's like, it's like in your 60s. I mean, it's not nice to have your skull get open at any age,
Hmm.
but when you're older, it's just a lot
Yeah.
more problematic. So he was very
Hmm.
desperate, and he just came and asked me like if I can do something about this. And I never give false hopes to people. It's like, I don't know, I can guarantee nothing. Let's see, take the medicine, let's see what happens. That's it.
Hmm.
I'll hold the space for you. I'll do what I can to help the journey, but I can't guarantee anything. So he came, and I was like in debating myself like what to give him, because I have light medicine for new people, I have strong medicine for experienced people. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't know. It's like, and then just intuitively, usually I get the intuition from the medicine as we
Hmm.
open the ceremony.
Hmm.
And the medicine is like, give him the strong stuff. And I'm
Hmm.
like, man,
Right.
I don't know if he will make through this. You know what I mean? I don't
Hmm.
want the dead Americans on my resume here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I just trusted that intuition.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, just have it. And I gave him full cup of strong
Hmm.
medicine.
Hmm.
He went out of he left his body for like 12 hours completely. He was not just breathing.
Wow.
I came a few times. He was not even there.
Yeah.
So it's like just praying for him to come back,
Hmm.
trusting the medicine. It's like, like
Oh,
doubting myself a few times. It's
oh,
like, man,
you must have been terrified.
man.
I mean, I've been in the seat, so I know what it's like when
Oh,
you
he's
don't know what the
completely,
medicine's
he's
doing.
not there, man. 12.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
the medicines just kept telling me, just leave him alone, leave him alone.
Hmm.
And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay.
Okay.
And I had a big group of other people to take care of, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I was like a little bit concerned at some point. It's like, man, it's like I shouldn't do this. I should take my steps. But that was a clear message from the medicine in the morning. So it's like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm doing it. So he was knocked out 12 hours. We had to carry him home at night. Literally, he couldn't talk, he couldn't walk. We had to carry him home.
Hmm.
I had to
Hmm.
put him in the shower. Like that was already like 11 p.m. and we drink like 9:30 in the morning. That's already like 13 hours. And I'm like, man, the guy's not coming back. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
In the shower, holding him there. I mean, imagine
Hmm.
it's like his wife is calling. I'm
Hmm.
like, where's my husband? Is he coming home? I'm like, he's at some point he will, but at the moment he's
Hmm.
kind of unavailable. You know what I mean? She got panicked. She came knocking on the doors, and then she talked to my wife. It's like, hey, it's normal. It's just strong medicine. It has its own
Hmm.
course. You have to, ride the waves. Around midnight, he kind of come back, and
Yeah.
and and she took him home. And like, oh man, thank you for that. But then what happened is that he had like a next meeting with the doctors, like like to see to do the X-ray. I don't know, like to
Hmm.
see to schedule the operation. So he went to Lima. He lives in
Yeah.
Peru. He's
Hmm.
around,
Peruvian. Yeah.
and then it's gone. There was no operation. It's like it's gone. This thing was healed in one ceremony,
Hmm.
and he called Huachuma a cosmic surgeon after that.
Yeah.
The headache's gone. I mean, migraines. I mean, this is serious
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was 10 years ago.
Mm,
You know, he had got another baby after I gave him more medicine for like 30 days therapy, which he didn't even want it, but
mm,
Huachuma kind of make you very fertile. I mean, I don't know. It happens here, you know. So just living his life normally, no operation, no brain surgery,
mm,
no, you know, a lot of expense, just one ceremony. It happened. It's on my resume, you know. So that's
mm.
just to confirm your experience, which to me is just
Yeah,
totally normal. It's like, yeah, things happens like
yeah.
this. Incredible healing happens beyond belief, beyond scientific explanation. Nobody can explain anything. I call it magic. That's what we call it.
Mm,
Spirit work, magic,
mm-hmm,
because that's what it does.
mm-hmm,
You know, it's not a hocus pocus. It's not a Harry Potter stuff. This is
mm.
real healing magic that can heal you and change your life and set you straight towards yourself, towards your happiness. This is plant medicine, you know. So just to support what you said, it's like,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
thank you for
you
sharing
know,
that.
I know that to be true,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I know Huachuma is a very potent plant healer as well.
very, very, a very
Yeah.
beautiful medicine.
And for myself too, um, you know, the more that I, kind of continue into my apprenticeship, the more I realize I don't feel like if something happens, I don't even feel like I do it. It's like it comes through you.
Yeah, you're a conduit.
Yeah, and there's it's like, um, yeah, I sang the right song, or but it's who's actually running the show at this point because you've
Wow,
been diving in for
spirit.
so long, you've been working with the plants for so long, and the whole idea is it's not you
It's a spirit.
doing it. It's
Yeah.
this whole network of mutuality.
It's the
Yeah,
intelligence of nature working through you.
yeah,
That's what it does.
yeah,
It has its helpers, it has
yeah,
its
yeah,
medicines and plants and spirits, but it's all
yeah.
working through you. You are the medium. You are
And
the
that's why it's
vessel through
so
which come.
beautiful. It's so beautiful. So
It's
beautiful.
incredible.
Mm,
The
mm,
world of plant medicine,
mm.
shamanism, it's a real phenomena
It's like
that
going
should be
quantum.
explored.
Yeah, it's going quantum. It's just it's
It's
such
like
a
another world.
it's such a
It's
joy. Yeah.
You know, it's another world which was suppressed and
Mm,
denied to us, to Western people, and to
mm,
modern people in general now. But it's like we were brainwashed with ideologies. Like you want God, well, here is
mm,
God. You want healing, well, here's the therapist. You know what I
mm,
mean? It's like that's what the Matrix have for you.
mm,
That's the departments of the system.
mm, mm,
But how would I say it nicely? You know what I mean? It's like you need to kind of break the conditioning to discover real spirituality, real path, and real healing,
mm,
which is beyond the institutional control. It's in countries, in the places where traditional shaman is still alive, like Peru, Mexico, maybe some places in Africa where they work with the Boga, you know? That's where you go to find healing and awakening. That's my message in all my books. You know, differently put, but that's where it is. Go to nature, return to the mother nature for healing, nourishment, and awakening. That's pretty much my philosophy, you know, like to boil it down. So the question for you is, you wrote 3 books or more?
well, the fourth one is a fantasy novel, and I'm in that limbo state of having completed my first, really extensive work of fiction. Um, and all of my previous books have been published with smaller, kind of specialized presses. This one, though, needs the stewardship of an agent. And man, oh boy. Yeah, it just, as an author, it puts you into another realm entirely. And the publishing, the major publishing world is it's a lot different than with the writers that I grew up with. You know, the Zen Buddhist community I grew up in was very literary. You know, my teacher was Robert Aiken. William Merwin was part of the group, Gary Snyder. Like there was a real ethos of uh scholarly, creative poetics in it. And so it was very much a culture, a good culture of the book, right? And so now everything's scrambled. And so here I have a pretty marvelous book in my humble estimation, which takes the basically what I did is if you imagine sort of plate tectonics, I took the old Norse realm, pre-Christian Norse realm, and smashed it into sort of Chavin de Huantar, Andean Peru, right? With lots of jungle influence. And it's like, so imagine that the Vikings kind of invaded Peru.
No,
You know?
thank you. We already had that invasion by the Spanish, so
Yeah.
I
This
understand what
is,
you're saying.
I know. This is, yes. I dealt with that in a previous book. So, but this is fantasy, you know, so again, um, it allows you to sail free of actual, you know, historicity, but at the same time, it gives you a chance to just deal with such wonderful things. I love the fantasy genre. You know, Tolkien,
Hmm.
big influence in my life. You know, good fantasy
Yeah, for
is
sure.
so nourishing, and bad
Hmm.
fantasy is such a drag. And that's mainly what we got is formulaic, um, just kind of smarty pants kind of, you know, fantasy writing these days.
You
Uh,
know.
but what I wanted to try to do was hit that mythic level that Tolkien hit
Mm.
in my own humble way.
And bring your
Uh,
shamanic experience into it.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, because again, it's that love of the old texts. And so what I've done is I've taken the Brother Grimm's fairy tale, The White Snake, and it's taken me 300 pages to cover the first three paragraphs. And Odin appeared and
Hmm.
bards and Valkyries and shapeshifters
Man,
and
that will be a lot of editing
Celtic
there.
exiles. And I mean, it just became so much fun to write. And of course, plant medicines and shamanic singers and temples. And I had a blast. And now the problem is getting someone to read it.
And edit. That's a lot of work, man.
Agents
Mm.
are like finding a good agent is, I don't know, maybe it's like finding someone to get married to. It's so difficult these days.
I don't even play this game. I just publish my stuff on Amazon and
I
Peru. You know,
know. I
man.
don't
It's
have
like,
the energy. I don't have the energy right now. I got lots going on in my life, big time.
who did
And
you publish
so
your previous books with?
the first two was Inner Traditions,
Hmm.
and the third one was North Atlantic Books.
Mm.
You know,
And that
again,
was.
smaller presses.
And how was your experience with Inner Tradition?
Overall good. I'm still really irritated at them that they would not allow the Jaguar to be translated.
Oh,
People
you
were
sign off
begging.
your rights?
Yeah, I was just beginning, and
Mm.
people
Mm.
uh were asking for a Spanish translation,
And you can do it.
and they
Mm.
denied it. So you got to be careful. It's hard. You know, the Writers Guild in which you can sign up for can really help with that kind of thing. And if I'd known better, I would have insisted on certain other rights of inner traditions. But overall, you know, not a for a small press, not a bad
Mhm.
experience.
That's the problem when they force you to sign up to sign off your rights. So kind of you're not an owner of your work anymore. You know, it's like that's why I don't like it. It's like I
Yeah.
publish where I want. Here is the book on Amazon. I publish here in Peru. Just I hold the rights to my work. I can do what I want. I can translate to any language and and do what I want. It's very important. It's important to have this freedom as an artist, which we're part of. I don't call myself an artist, but I write books, too. In the meantime, when I rest from the medicine, actually write them on the medicine. But
Yeah,
this
part
important.
of
This freedom is important.
I get that. And also there's another side to it, which is authors are expected to self-promote now, to have social media
Yeah,
and you know, I'm 58 or something at this point, and my whole goal is to vanish more and more.
to
I do not want to
withdraw,
be, yeah, I'm
to
not
withdraw.
interested in promoting myself and creating a social media presence. It's like,
I
why would I
understand. It's
want to
time
do
consuming.
that? I mean, I've got
Mm,
far more important things to do.
yes.
And so many artists now in many fields who are not social media savvy or don't have the energy for it are falling,
Away.
out out of people's eyes, and the mediocre
Mhm.
surge forward. And now we have AI coming, and so it's going to get even worse for creative people because AI in about 5 years is going to be able to imitate art pretty well.
Or earlier or sooner.
It could be, yeah,
It can be
yeah.
sooner.
Um,
I understand. I'm in that game, unfortunately that I have chosen this path of like publishing my own stuff, being free,
mhm, mhm.
but I have to do this now, Instagram,
Yeah, and all
YouTube,
power to you. I tip my hat to you that you've got the energy to do it. I don't have it.
it just I have to do it if I want to bring my message to people.
Mm,
How would
mm,
they find out
mm.
about me if I'm not going with traditional publishing and nobody is telling them about my books? I
Right.
have to say it. I have to do this. I have to, what I mean? It's like it's a lot of work, it's a lot of energy. I mean,
Mhm,
I love this because I believe in my message. So, but of course, at the same time, it's like I feel to me it's a service to humanity what I'm doing.
mm,
Of course,
mm,
service to me and my family direct.
mhm,
That's
mhm.
my
Yeah,
livelihood. But it's
right.
also to the broader community, people who will never come drink medicine with me. But by reading my books, they can start thinking differently. They can
Mm,
change things in their life. So
mm,
so I see it as a part of my medicine service, medicine for people
mhm,
who come here like
mm,
directly, but
mhm,
also for people who will not come here ever, people who I will never meet in my life. But I can also help them by writing my book. So it's kind of consuming. Yes, of course. Of course, I'm taking this time away from my kids that are
yeah,
growing very fast,
yeah.
and that's the most important thing in my life, my children, my family.
Mm,
So it's a sacrifice that, I'm trying to balance it a little bit. I don't want to be like jumping into like and become a, influencer and growing my community to like 1 million people, which I could do if I wanted. I definitely can do it.
mm,
But I just want to keep it like enough so it's going, it's like moving
mm,
forward and people can discover the work on the
mm,
internet. Here is many, many people who come here, like many. I'm talking like a lot percentage wise, saying, "Hey, I was just Googling Huachuma. I was just, and then I found your book, and then I found your, and then I saw a podcast with your guest, and it just talked to me.
mhm,
It's just I
mhm,
felt that. So
mm,
it's just how it is. So I have to be involved in that, just to deliver the message. It's the
yeah,
internet
there's
era. It's
many people are now in that boat. Yes, most people
so
are in that boat. Yep,
so I understand, of course,
yep,
the facility of having a publisher. Of course,
yep,
he does it for you. He puts you in the bookstore, and people just go to Barnes and Nobles and buy your book. It's
right.
very convenient, and then you have your
Mm,
things to do write
mm,
your own book, like another book, or do other thing. But at the same time, like it has like pluses and minuses to that too.
mhm.
So, and I live in Peru. I can't just
Yeah,
it's like I'm far away from Barnes and Nobles there, guys. You know what I
yes,
mean?
you are.
So it's like
Where is your center located?
we're in Sacred Valley near Cusco. You been here?
Oh, yes.
It's beautiful here, just mountains everywhere.
I
It's just so
love
beautiful.
Frisco.
It's beautiful area,
Yeah.
So that's it. I'm not against that, but I mean, if a good offer come in, it's like okay, we can talk about this, but
Mhm.
I like to be free, I like to decide for myself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
It's a
that
matter of
comes with a
energy.
price. Yeah, it's
It's
about
where
how
you
much,
can put the
yeah,
energy and how much you got and
how much you willing to
all the
give.
rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's where we are. So what else would you like to share with people? It's been a good conversation so far,
Yeah, I
and
really enjoyed it.
I don't want to drag it like for too far. I don't have problem. I can talk, but people like busy, what I mean, in their
Yeah.
life. So I don't want to keep it like 2 hours and people will get angry at me, like, hey,
Yeah.
I have to cook dinner here, what I mean?
Um,
So something like to wrap it up, maybe something important. I don't know. We didn't talk about Zen Buddhism. I like Zen Buddhism. I'm coming from Eastern philosophies. That's my baggage.
mhm,
I come to plant medicine from Zen
mhm,
Buddhism, Sufism.
mhm.
So, but maybe it's another conversation. I don't know. It's like a
Well,
whole Pandora box
I,
now.
I
You know
could
what I
end
mean?
on this note. I could end on
Okay.
this note. Um, I have found my own Zen Buddhist practice to be an anchor that's been very valuable. Um, and actually, Dale Pendell was part of our group, you know, who wrote the Pharmacognosis series and everything. And, you know, he commented at one point that it's really helpful to be able to hit ground state. He called it. Um, and I'm grateful to have a, a traditional practice. Um, I also practice Ashtanga yoga as well, because there's a lot of richness in these spiritual traditions,
Well, gives you
and
context.
it does. And
Mhm.
even in our ceremonies, many members of the Sangha have come and joined me, and I chant Buddhist chants in ayahuasca ceremonies. They are, and the first time I did one, I asked the maestro's permission down at my Antiyaku when it was Rohatsu, the commemoration of the Buddha's birthday, and I just wanted to ask permission, or the Buddha's enlightenment, pardon. I asked permission of the maestro, can I sing some uh, Buddhist chants tonight? And he went, oh yeah, go ahead. So they were such a hit that one of the apprentices came up to me afterward and said, can you teach me that Ikaro of the Buddha? Um, and so I find that having a really grounded meditation practice for me is just absolutely invaluable if you're going to work with plant medicines.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
I bring my work with the medicine with Huachuma particularly, it's pure Zen. Like
Yes,
it's
it's
just
very
pure
akin.
Zen.
Yeah.
It's a being in the moment, living your life now, conscious.
Mm,
It's just a kind of guiding your path from that place. So that's how I wrap my medicine into. So I just it's a symbiosis between plant medicine and Eastern philosophies that I personally like, you know, and I think it's very powerful, and that's what maybe make me stand alone, kind of as how would you say, like yeah, just being different from like a traditional shamanism, because traditional shamanism it's dwelling in healing. Traditional Peruvian shamanism is healing. It's not
or witchcraft.
consciousness. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just a dark
that does
side of
not
it,
leave
but
out brujeria. It's
but it's
very
not
common.
like, yeah, it's not like a
Yeah.
consciousness exploration and kind of, that's what
Mm,
I bring to this work from my
mhm.
past. And I found it to be incredibly effective. It's not just to heal you from depression. That's where it starts. I mean, that's just to bring you to normality, is
Mm.
to open the whole thing for you, to open your consciousness to the universe, and kind of think about big questions and find your own relationship
And
with all this.
your heart
Of
to
course, to
your
awaken your
family
heart.
and the wounds that you've sustained, and
It's a
understanding
vertical,
trauma and
you
healing it,
know.
and yeah,
It's a vertical. It starts from healing and then just
yeah.
spiraling up into the
Mhm,
world of spirit and consciousness, you know. And that has to do with with my love
mhm,
to spiritual traditions of the West, I mean of the East, you know, and particularly Zen Buddhism. I
yeah,
found more life in it, you know, and Sufism, you know, which is a bit more
yeah.
mysterious, but it's all kind of, if you understand them, it's like they're all kind of the same, which is a little variety. It's like we drink medicine, it's all really the same thing. It's just a just different channels to reach the same place, you know? So it's just that the ayahuasca and Huachuma peyote, they're different. Well, ayahuasca and peyote and Huachuma, like peyote and Huachuma are very similar, but they're different with ayahuasca. But at the end, you come to the place of awakened heart and clear mind and connection to everything, you know, and become a better person. That's it, you know. So in that sense, okay, you know, just find what you like more and do it. What
That's the
resonates
goal.
with you more,
That's the goal. Heal up, be a good person, help
and
other
help
people.
others. Yeah, and
It's
just
so simple
contribute to
in
the
the end, isn't
world.
it? Yeah, we just want to be decent human beings.
That's
We want
it.
to be
And be
awake. We
happy.
want to be loving.
And be happy. That's
Yeah,
it. If you're
yeah,
not happy, then what are you
yeah,
doing?
yeah.
You know what I
There was
mean?
one thing my dad in the Native American church said to me, and maybe we can end on this note because it's so easy to just keep,
Okay.
resonating
Okay.
off this.
That's fine.
But Bob said to me at one point, he said, your job in this world is to enjoy.
That's exactly what I tell people in my
Yeah,
ceremonies.
yeah.
Just do that. Learn joy. The medicine wants you to
Hmm.
enjoy it. That I'm telling this every person who's coming here. We'll be telling tomorrow to to everybody here. It's like the medicine, especially Wachuma, it wants you to enjoy. It wants you to find joy and
Yeah.
enjoy it. And it's a healing joy. It's a healing and teaching joy. As you're in that amazing ecstatic state of consciousness, you learn wisdom. It comes to you. You know, it heals you and it teaches you. And meanwhile, you are enjoying. I mean, what a gift, you know? So that's true. Yeah. Be happy, be enjoy.
Thank
That's
you so
good for
much for this
me.
conversation, Sergey.
Of course, I'm glad
I'm
we
really,
talk.
I feel like I've met a kindred spirit.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and
All
you
right.
know, have a good conversation for sure. I will post it like probably Thursday because today we have
Okay.
ayahuasca and tomorrow we have Huachuma. It's busy, so
Okay.
Thursday I'll
Okay.
put it
All right.
there and I'll send
Okay.
you the link. Sounds
Thank
good,
you so
Robert.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Bye bye.